Hi, this is Laiken Arslanian, and this is my persuasive speech. I am here to persuade you to never let your children play violent video games. Some of you may ask, why is this such a big deal? Perhaps this story of a young 14-year-old boy named Marco Carneal will help answer this question. This young boy stole a gun from his neighbor's home. He brought it to school where he fired 8 shots and shot 8 students leaving from a prayer group. 3 of these students were killed. One was seriously injured, was paralyzed, and will be paralyzed for life. The FBI says that an average experienced, qualified law enforcement officer in the average shootout hits less than 1 bullet in every 5 shots. How does a child acquire such killing abilities, and what would lead him to commit such a horrific act? The answer is video games. Violent video games affect everyone, but especially young children, causing them to become desensitized as well as become violent. Children under the age of 8 are especially sensitive to violent media. They cannot decipher between what is real or not. They see things as though they are real life. That is why they are more sensitive to violent video games. Lieutenant Colonel David Grossman wrote an article, Trained to Kill, that states, when a young child sees somebody being shot, stabbed, brutalized, degraded, or murdered on TV, to them, it is as though it is actually happening. When seeing all these things, children become desensitized to violence, believing that it is a normal, everyday thing that happens. These games act as a killing stimulator, or conditioning device very similar to the military stimulators that are used to train the armed forces. They use these violent video games to help new recruits accept violence as a normal and essential survival skill in the brutal theater of war. However, when you show these to kids, it does the same thing, but in a stronger effect. Alice Park has an article in Time magazine stating research from Dr. Vincent Matthews from Indiana University. He did a study on how violent video games affect the brain. In this study, he scanned several people's brains and monitored their activities. He then sent them off for a week of playing violent video games. When they returned, he again scanned their brains. In his research, he found that those who played violent video games showed less activity in areas of their brain that involved emotion, attention, and inhibition for our impulses. Matthews states that behavioral studies have shown an increase in aggressive behavior after violent video games. And what we show is the psychological expansion for what the behavioral studies are showing. We're showing that these are changes in the brain function that are likely related to that behavior. Today, data has linked violence to the media to violence in society superior to those linking cancer to tobacco. So violent video games do not only desensitize youth, they also make them more violent. It also alters the way that their brain works. Children cannot be allowed to play violent video games. The long-term effects of violent media, especially on children, can be devastating to the person's view of the world as well as how he or she reacts to it. This young boy who shot those 8 students was able to do so with such accuracy without ever holding a handgun in his entire life because of violent video games. The moment that you think of what games are your children playing? Do your children gather together to play video games with their friends such as Halo or Gears of War so that they can kill each other while playing with each other? Would you encourage your children to murder and steal? then don't allow them to play video games that encourage them to do so.
I didn't see. What did you put on me?